Happy new moon in Sidereal Cancer and tropical Leo opposite Pluto. Unconscious, subconscious Pluto. And it might surprise you to hear that I think, like some people do, Pluto is not a planet. Pluto is 6 stellar objects. It's a binary, a pair of planetoid objects that have a center of gravity, a shared center of gravity, so that they slingshot around each other in epoch and ellipse, and 4 other objects as well. So Pluto is terribly complex, and a big part of our lives, if we're living in the United States right now, for a lot of reasons. And when it's in this polarized relationship, this opposition to both sun and moon, it's catalytic, it's change making, and it unearths, uncovers, and displays. And what it's displaying globally for all of us right now is a contradiction that we can no longer ignore. And for some people, the contradiction that we can no longer ignore is, about the President of the United States and these Epstein files. Not easy to deal with that contradiction. The contradiction of so-called democratic countries in forever wars and genocides. Not easy to deal with, but we're also encouraged, I think, by the introspective time to look within to the contradictions that we ourselves embody. And there is a thing about embodiment with sidereal Cancer, right? How does anyone deal with the need for care for the body? We have all kinds of economic programs that deal out care credits, right? Which is money. We save, hoard, try to obtain, strive after money so that we can have care into later life, but in everyday life, so we can have care and comfort. And that's Cancer, but Leo wants to shine, right? And tropical Leo wants to shine in a healthy and nurturing way, not just an egoic way. It wants to care for a group of people. It wants to be a leader to a group of people. And it wants to give care in the way that the sun does. That it literally gives its life force, gives its chi to the world. So having, these signs and the 2 major luminaries in a relationship of opposition to each other talks about this unending cycle of harmony, disharmony, and repair And these 3 planets sum that up really well. I feel like maturity is the capacity to see our relationship to all things in that triplicity, that cycle of harmony, disharmony, and repair without burning the bridge, without blowing up the, throwing a punch to the throat. Anyway, the beauty of a new moon like this is that we get to take care of our own behavior and focus ourselves more deeply on repair. We have a lot of remediation to do. I know I do in my own life, especially with regard to the unconscious tendencies I have represented by Pluto. Om Dum Durgaye Namaha. Om Shrim Mahalakshmiye Namaha. Om Aim Saraswatiye Namaha. Just a couple things that showed up on the altar today. The owl, remember deception was our final card in the last reading. Our little snake, the transformation symbol, this beautiful piece of cloth that my neighbor gave me wrapped around some fluorite, a necklace that I made that I constantly take apart and rebead because what is beading if not consistently rebeading? Maybe I'll wear that a little bit in the next couple of days. And then there's this really interesting piece of claw from a black bear that was given to me by a charming, if addicted, young Blackfoot Indian in St. Mary, Montana. We just had our investor party at this resort I am working at. It went super smoothly. Thank you for all of your well-wishing. In this reading for this new moon for the next 28 days, we are represented by boundaries. 28 reduces to a number 1, and I'm going to take that to mean personal boundaries. Protect your mind, your heart. Protect your consciousness from this sentence synthesizing so-called artificial intelligence. Remember that you are the creative spark that goes into anything that is created in matter, and that you are more than anything that you can perceive. I've been doing a lot of grounding, just growing roots into the ground, visualizing that I'm growing roots into the ground, and centering and clearing by imagining water flowing from the top of my head through to those roots and cleansing me of anything that's not mine. And then protection, just drawing a bubble around myself, like this boundary that the armadillo has. We are boundaries, and we're crossed by cleansing. Interesting, isn't it? Just said that word. Also, clearing, it's a recalibration of boundaries when you are cleansing them. It might be a really good new moon for smudging the house. Remember to only use sage in the daytime. Don't use it at night. That's old Blackfoot lore, but I have always followed it because sage is exceedingly powerful at expelling negativity, but it also, if you don't vent a little, if you don't leave a window open or something to that degree, and then follow it up by calling in positivity, it can be a little rattling. So I only ever do it in the day. But maybe you have some clearing, cleansing ritual that you like to do. And you might want to change it up at this new moon, because we're crossed by a cleansing. And that to me means that it's going to be difficult to wash away whatever's gotten caught in our boundary, or whatever we've taken on that we maybe shouldn't have. Maybe something that isn't our responsibility is not our cross to bear, and it needs to be cleansed. And in cases like that, things get ripped away a little, don't they? Or flooded. The last time, I think, I need to check this, but the last time I threw the I Ching, I got abysmal as the secondary hexagram. And that one's always really interesting to me. And then this time period comes up where we're looking back toward 2019 and what happened to us then. And I got the abysmal then very significantly as well as a first throw. So sometimes cleansing can be a really tricky process, I guess, is my whole point with that entire spiel. Our boundaries are being cleansed. This is grounded in the giveaway. And this has been sitting, I don't remember where it fell in our last spread, or even if it did, but it's been sitting on the top of the deck for a while. And in the ancient potlatch ceremony, your wealth was measured by how much you had to give away, right? You were considered the wealthiest in your village if you could give the most to others. And it's interesting to think about that as a measure of wealth compared to what we have now, compared to how we think about it these days. But there's a sense of the reception that happens when we give to other people, and the cleansing of these boundaries has something to do, has an origin in the economy of giving and receiving. Giving and receiving to the earth, living in systems of biodynamicism, living in equal give and take, living in balanced it's late, I'm tired, harmonious relationship to the earth and to each other. And I can tell I'm tired because I need to move all these over so that we can complete the spread. So, boundary cleansing founded in the giveaway and crowned by illusion. So whatever boundary it is that we're cleansing in the give and take of our relationships is really illusory, because we really only ever give and take to and from ourselves. So when we withhold love, devotion, kindness, compassion from ourselves, we also do that to others. Gosh, I have been thinking about this all day. Bayo Akamalafe, I hope I said his name right, has famously said, "The times are urgent, we must slow down." This significant urgency of our current time requires careful discernment, careful examination, not only because there is a sentence synthesizing AI creating false realities that are causing people to think they're in relationships with other people, but they're really just talking to themselves and suffering emotional distress from all of that. So as we're cleansing the doors of perception, as we're cleansing these boundaries of give and take with the outside world, we're called to remember the difference between the eternal and the timeless, and the temporal and the material. We have to be discerning in what is spiritually meaningful in our lives and what is merely material, what is merely sustaining on the level of time. We are moving away from, sorry, I am tired. Oh, I saw some of these this week. Antelope, action. We're moving away from outward action. We're moving away from engaging outside. We have a lot of ones here. The armadillo reduces to a 1. Frog reduces to 11, reduces to a 2. Turkey reduces to 4. And dragonfly reduces to 9. Okay, so maybe we have 2 1s, but significantly they're right next to each other. Action. So we're moving away from action, so it's like actionless boundaries. Fences you don't have to mend. Dynamic equilibrium that doesn't need to be efforted. And I think that's a really interesting thing, something we don't need to act in order to cleanse the doors of perception, of relationship to illusion. It's going to be effortless, and we're going to move toward self-esteem, which reduces to a 2 and is an 11. This is a beautiful card. And we've recently had some moose activity out here where I am. I am told that we get moose at the house in the fall pretty regularly, which is kind of cool. Self-esteem, holding myself. This is again that Bayo Kamalafe quote, "The times are urgent, we must slow down." If I don't treat myself with the care that I need under this Cancer and Leo new moon, if I'm not a caring sovereign, if I'm not a caring queen of the night toward myself, I'm not going to have that for other people. And if I don't have it for my team, I can't have it for like a larger world. If I can't care for my family, I can't care for the world. And say what you want about some of these power-mad warmongers, but you know for a fact they have no self-esteem and they have no self-love, and they can't esteem others because of it. And it's a very sad state of affairs when those are the people holding all the cards in our culture. That makes us take a look at the illusory nature of these relationships and want to cleanse the door of perception with an actionless self-esteem, right? We begin patience, a 5, a transformative card, a new patience, a new way of becoming ubiquitous, a new way of becoming ourselves, our being. Ant is the most industrious of workers, but they, work at the smallest nano quantum level, and their world is very, very small compared to where we live. The patience that their collaboration, their teamwork takes to build reminds me of activism, organization, team building, relationship maintenance, any of the work of collaboration that it takes time to do. Accepting the time that it will take is what we're beginning. We're beginning to see how much time it will take and how much time we have. We are surrounded by the dreaming, another 9 card, dreaming and illusion. Kind of hold hands, don't they? Like living in the dream time as Lizard does, in the dark during the day and sometimes on a rock in the sun. Hiding in the dark, and then sometimes just sunning yourself and warming your blood on the rock. Sometimes dreams are beautiful, sun and moon, and sometimes they're a little chaotic, like Pluto, and we dream them under the rock or on top of the rock. But that kind of energy, that kind of polarity, that kind of yin and yang seems to be all around us at this time. We hope and fear, Saturn, right? Saturn and Neptune are together right now, so there's kind of a metaphysical limitation. This always reminds me of the Kali Yuga, where only 25% of the truth is able to make it to the earth. It could be because the sun is in a binary, as the same way that Pluto's 6 objects orbit each other. But there's a sense in which, we're cleansing these doors of perception because the relationship to the illusion is restricting us and will continue to do so while Pluto is in Aquarius in both charts. Aquarius is Rahu and Saturn in the Sidereal chart, and is Saturn and Uranus in the tropical chart. So all these people talking about harmony and understanding, I don't think they get it. The age of Aquarius is not here yet, first of all. I mean, we have to take that into account. We've got about 500 more years before the precession of the equinoxes changes the sign into the sign of Aquarius, but changes the place where the sun rises on the first day of Aries in Aquarius, is what I mean to say. But this is a card of limitation and restriction and fixation and stuck habits. And we both hope and fear that we get to keep the status quo. We both hope and fear that life as normal isn't going to be disrupted by the cleansing of our boundaries, by our giveaway, by our illusions being shattered effortlessly, and by our self-love that comes from all of this being in the accordion or the dishwasher of life, the life force getting spun around and limited and finally building capacity in a it becomes a new shape. And there's that positive way of looking at the Neptune-Saturn conjunction, is embodying a new shape, especially with the moon on these objects. We finish the messenger. We finish with a message. So what's really interesting is it looks like we're going through, another 30-day process where we end getting the picture, awakening to something, getting the message, and it being kind of an undeniable signal that comes from nature. And if it sounds a little watery and floody and scary, that's not too far from the truth. We don't know where these really heavy rains, these monsoon-like rains, are going to end, or where they're going to happen, rather. We're seeing a lot of these flash floods in weird places right now, and they're meaningful. They are boundary clearing, in the worst kind of way, in a hard way. They force the issue of give and take, and they strip illusion effortlessly from our ideas of ourselves and from the way that we hold ourselves. But through patience and this positive kind of light and dark of dreaming, of changing perception that comes with a cleansing of the boundaries, we are restricted and meaningfully limited into getting the message, and Pluto is, there's no two ways about it. Pluto is change or die. It's you must adapt, right? Very clear in my life right now. Lots of situations that are just tricky and difficult, and lots of personalities, and lots of being humble and giving things away and cleansing perception, because perception is reality, and moving away from action toward more of an introspection out and away from the outside world. Getting the picture about what needs to change and how to change it. And this is all about prayer and sacrifice, prayer and abundance. Buffalo is a 19. 19 reduces to a 1. I'm kind of in Yellowstone country out here, so this buffalo is a very potent card for me in Crow territory here. It used to be that when we stood in dynamic equilibrium with the earth, our give and take, our gratitude cycle was assured. And while there was meaningful difficulty, there was always a combination, a dreaming with the divine, and a patient kind of unfolding, a way in which the message that we were meant to get was coming to us effortlessly through, regular cleansing of the doors of perception. This is probably a really good signal for me to do a little vision quest or some ceremony in that regard. And maybe that card of prayer and abundance and prayer and sacrifice has you thinking about, doing some ritual as well, creating that sacred space for yourself where you can shed what you no longer need. This is definitely a story in cards of shedding those belief systems, those ideas that are illusory, and coming into more partnership with divinity through a patient process of, almost visualizing it and then feeling the restriction and then feeling the message the way you do when you pray. That's everything I've got for us for this new moon cycle. I just am so grateful that you pay attention to these little readings and that you enjoy them. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. May your prayers be abundant in the next 30 days.